Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm your host Eric Ramirez here with your co-host Mando
Mando
Gomez.
Gomez. I feel like we are in the arena, man.
Yeah, I think I like that little introduction, Mando Gomez. We need to get you a lucha libre mask here.
I do have one, man. It's a blue demon one.
All right, I might have to go find one, and we'll do a treat for our watchers. We'll do our intros with them on. well, if you haven't noticed, you're at the Tech-Mex podcast. This is our season 1, episode 2. So welcome everybody. We're real excited to have y'all here today. We've got quite a few things to discuss. We're going to touch on some Tesla items. I think we teased a little bit about that previously. We're going to talk about money, taboo, I know, but with relation to Hispanics and how things are work within our culture. And also, we're going to end with a bit of a call to action for folks, and maybe we might touch on some chat GPT items. So a lot of things to talk about today. So hopefully y'all are excited. Let's get to it. Dale.
Dale.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to start off with a quick story. I've been going to the beach a lot lately. At work, we've got the whole use it or lose it with your PTO. So you got to take time off. Our fiscal year ends kind of in the middle of the year. And so been going to the beach, taking some Fridays and Mondays off. And oh my goodness, I made plans to go to the beach on Memorial Day. But of course, Memorial Day is going to be crazy at the beach. So we're like, you know what? Let's go to maybe a smaller beach that might not get as much traffic. Right from us, Galveston Beach is maybe like an hour. But we went to Freeport, which is also about an hour. And we thought maybe there's a little bit less traffic there. Well, we got there and there was like an hour line just at the entrance of the beach.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We didn't end up going there, but we backtracked and went to a smaller beach. We barely found a spot there, but let me tell you what happened. So I was there with my brother and his family, and we were driving down the beach trying to find a spot, and we could not find a thing. And then we saw some cars getting stuck in the sand. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're not ready for that because the sand was too powdery, lots of traffic going through. So we ended up backtracking a little bit from there, and I found a spot. So let's just park and walk around. Let's see. But like shoulder to shoulder tents, like no space whatsoever. And I see a guy with a truck. He had a really nice what are they called? It's a Jeep, the Jeep truck, the Gladiator, I think it's called.
The Gladiator, yes.
Yeah. Super nice, brand new, super shiny. And he had parked his truck kind of like sideways. So it was taking up probably like 25, 30 feet of beach real estate, right? I'm like, I'm going to go talk to him. So I go, and by the way, it was like 90% Hispanic on the beach there. So I go up there and my Spanish is not great. I'm like, hola, amigo, ¿cómo estás? I see you have some space on the beach. And he's like, hey, me and my family right here, you mind if we just set up shop right here? Because he had a good area of maybe 15 feet that he wasn't even using, right? But his whole truck was covering that area. He's like, hey, tranquilo, go ahead. Like, no problem. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, got so lucky. We got a place to set up. So we were here setting up. We pull out the tents and stuff like that. We bring in the bags, and me and my brother start pulling this tent apart and anchor it down, get everything set up. And all of a sudden, like this big gust of wind comes, and I kid you not, it picked my tent up straight up, turned it 90 degrees, bam, straight into his truck. Into his truck. When you see these things happening, like everything goes into slow motion.
Yeah, just very slow motion, and like you're saying, no.
I'm jumped because my tent lifted up into the air. I jumped to grab it. I couldn't get it, and it goes straight. Like you hear the thud on his truck, and it's one of these normal tent, like metal legs and everything. It's like a 10 by 10 tent. I grab it. I'm trying to pull it off. I can't pull it off. My brother grabs it. He's trying to pull it off of this guy's truck. And this guy's like, my truck, and he's like goes and grabs it. All three of us are pulling on this thing, and the wind is just like holding it on his truck. I'm like, oh man, this guy's gonna have so much damage. We finally pull it off, and the legs on this must have been some crazy wind. I don't know what happened. And by the way, no other tents got hit. It was just my tent that I had anchored down. It was the only one that got lifted up. But the legs were all mangled, broken. I mean, it was trash after that. But
Okay.
miracle, the guy did not have a scratch on his truck.
Oh
Did
wow.
not have a scratch. We looked left and right. I'm like, whew, okay.
Maybe
Thank
maybe
God
he
he
didn't
was
see the
watching
roof.
over me. Yeah, I know. Right? We didn't look at the roof. So he was. I was like, man, that was awkward right there. I'm like, hey, bud, I asked you permission at least, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no, it was fine. But you know what struck me was like 90% Hispanic on the beach here. I was like, hey, man, one, we know how to party, and then some of the setups they had, dude. They had like trailers with the barbecue pits.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
they
for
were
sure.
they were ready. But what are you gonna say?
Yeah, I was looking into a stat that
Uh huh.
basically there's a lot of Hispanics that they're affluent, right? And what they mean with affluent is that affluent people in America, they own about 70%, 80%. It's like the Pareto law, right? The twenty
Yeah.
80%, which
Hmm.
basically 20% of these people. But for Hispanics, we are growing in the affluent community.
You
And one,
saw it
and
out
one,
there.
yeah, and one interesting thing was that the consumption from spending for Hispanics is across multiple areas, and one of them, and it's no wonder for all of us, but it's leisure and entertainment. It's
For
like that's
sure.
number one though. Number two is travel, right? And something that shocked me as well, it was that we are early adopters, so we
Mhm.
actually are buying gadgets and technology, which again, that was interesting to me. But yeah, that's something, and yeah, you can see it on the beach with all of these rigs and the different trucks and all of the
And the nice
equipment.
trucks. Yeah, it was first of all amazing and almost like really proud because it's like, man, this is what life is to me. That's what a lot of life is about, is really spending time with the family, getting out, enjoying nature,
Hmm.
having some good carne asada, and even better on the beach in the sun. So really really proud to see my culture enjoying the weekend, Memorial Day out there. So it was really cool. But like you said, it like the leisure and entertainment. I mean, that's a really big thing, and I've been going to the beach a lot recently.
Hmm.
It's something that's very relaxing and something that I do. But even travel, I know like my uncles just drove to Florida this weekend to go out to Destin. It's a thing.
Talking about the beach, did I told you that I was very close to buy a house in Padre Island? I don't think that I
Oh,
told you
really?
about it. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So this was in the pandemic, right? Like when
Okay.
everybody was like
When
just trying to.
everybody was looking, yeah.
So, but actually, that was a. Sometimes you do bad decisions, right? And one of that bad decision is I put a kind of a little down payment, right?
Oh.
I went with the kids. I went with Katie. Katie, my wife. She's like, hey, yeah, let's move over there, and it's close to the beach. Literally, it was a front beach. It's only the golf course kind of divided the beach with the
The
ocean
house.
with the house,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Beautiful house, Mediterranean. I like the Mediterranean style. Again, beautiful house. Suddenly, something like on me is like, man, I don't want to live there. There is not even an international airport. And it's funny that in that time, I started having these filters on the location that I need to live because I like to travel, right?
Mhm.
And that one is one of those that it has to have a kind of like a good international airport. And then that's the reason why we moved back to Texas. I was in Austin for a little bit, but yeah, that was my experience, and we were very close to actually pull the trigger on the house.
Ah, so that's interesting. But and what drew you to Padre, by the way?
Uh, the ocean. I mean, it's one of the still kind of in Texas, right? But
Hmm.
it's basically kind of the ocean. I like a connection between the water and me. It's like a Mexican Aquaman or something like that. I do like water. I live now by close to a lake, so it's just literally every day I see water. Like when I'm driving through, even when I'm trying to get out of the to the city, I have to cross through the lake, and it's like just to cross the lake is like 3 4 minutes. Like you just are driving,
Oh.
driving, driving. Yeah,
Mhm.
just keep driving because and there's a huge bridge there, and but yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, by the way, for those not familiar with Texas Gulf Ocean geography, I mean, most people consider the water in South Padre is going to be like the first bluish water that you can get on the
Mhm.
Texas Gulf. When you're looking at Galveston beaches, I know we're getting into kind of like that. Typically, the water's not known as being blue in Galveston. It's known as
The
being more
oil.
emerald. No, no, not the oil. Emerald. It's like an emerald green.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you're lucky, I'm telling you, if you're lucky, I sent you a picture that one time. You could see
Yes.
the water was blue, and I was very amazed.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes ocean is ocean, man. Like
Yeah.
even Galveston is so close to us that let's just enjoy it, right? And I think that yeah, it's sometimes you can see it very. That picture that you sent me, it was very bluish. I actually
Mhm.
I thought that you were like even in Padre Island on
Yeah.
another beach. Yeah,
No filter, by the way. That was straight, just normal. Now I don't know. Maybe I got the Google Pixel. It might apply some HDR on there. I don't know, but
yeah.
oh, either
So
way, fun stuff there.
now that you told me that you wanted to get a different car. So
Yeah.
let's talk about Tesla, right? So you got the Tesla. Which model?
Okay, so Tesla got the Tesla Model Y, but it didn't start with that one. Well,
Hmm.
it did. It started though with the Cybertruck to put my reservation down, right? So I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
that, and I think they were. I don't know. They're pretty smart about this. I think they're like trying to get you hyped up about this product that didn't exist, right? And it wouldn't exist for another 3 4 years.
Yeah.
But they got the hooks in you, and they're like, hey, you start looking at the other things that they've got available. So yeah, that's how we ended up with the Model Y. It just so happened waiting so long for the Cybertruck to be ready. My wife's car at the time was time to change it out. So we're going from BMW to Tesla, which and the BMW we've been
Dude,
loyal
I
fans
like
there for a
German
long
cars.
time.
Same
Yeah.
here, man. I have been driving 15 years. I have the Porsche, the Beamer, the Mercedes, right? And
Hmm.
just love them. Um, I'm still thinking on Tesla, but a couple days ago, we were driving. Katie was driving that time, and suddenly a truck just out of nowhere, right? And Katie just boom, move and maneuver very quickly. And that's one of the things that I really like about those German cars, which is like the the ability to respond very quickly because they are made for that, right? They are made for the autobahn.
Right.
Like over there in Europe, it's like literally the speed that your car can go, is basically. And they are very good on kind of the mechanics on the wheel and all of that. So maybe I need to test the Tesla how how it
You,
behaves on those
you should.
situations.
It's a little bit different, and I'll get into
Hmm.
that. But you know what? It's a funny story how you mentioned that about the maneuverability of the German vehicles. When I went to this last one that we bought, and this one I actually held on to again, my wife's car. We held on to this one for probably we already had it for 9 years now. It's
Hmm.
held up great, great, great. And in fact, we instead of trading it in or selling it when we got the Model Y, we kept it because it's a great second car. I sold my car, by the way, but that's a different story. But you know what sold us on this one? Because we were looking at different vehicles. We went to the sales guy, and I told him, "Oh yeah, we're interested in getting another X3 because that's what we've been driving, and my wife gets the
Hmm.
same one every time." And I told the guy we were just chatting. He says he races cars, Porsche,
Hmm.
Porsche, and I said, "Oh yeah, yeah, I've got a Porsche too." and he's so we got into that a little bit, and then he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna take you on the test drive, but I'm gonna drive it. I'm like, okay. So I should have seen that there. That was like not red flag, but like warning number one. So we're in the car. He gets on the highway going like 100 miles an hour. I'm like, okay, well, I know these cars can go fast, right?
Sure.
Autobahn. But then he starts going like quick,
Yep.
changing lanes.
Yep.
And I'm like holding on to the ocean bar, right? Sandra's like, you don't even want to see her face. She's like buckled in, and no, but
What car it was? Because I mean, usually when I think of a Porsche, it's like two seats, right? So this one was a Cayenne or what, or which one?
okay, no. So this is we were talking about the Porsche, right? But we were test driving an X3, a
Oh,
BMW
okay,
SUV,
okay, right,
and this is what he was doing on the highway. And
right.
so, yeah, this was something else. It was pretty interesting. But actually, that's what sold us on the car. They're like, man, we're never gonna drive this car this way, but the fact that it can and it can handle this
Yeah,
evasive maneuvering he was
yeah,
doing,
and that's the other
impressive.
thing that for me, and I want to dive into Tesla, right? Because I'm telling you the things that I do with the cars. I'm a very bad car owner. What I mean is like I don't even know when I changed the last time that I changed the oil, right? So
For sure.
uh, I neglect my cars. Like I'm literally neglect them, right? And the only ones that I has stand my neglect is the German cars. Like all of the other ones, they just break. Like I have to like these ones. I when I remember when just suddenly I remember. Oh crap! I need to give maintenance. Oh crap! I need to do this, and that's the reason why I have been driving them for 15 years.
Yeah, it's so true. They, a lot of them are bulletproof. Now, some if you look up consumer reports, whatever reviews and
Mhm.
stuff like that, some of them have issues, but mine has been pretty bulletproof over the last 10 years. I can't complain. But you know, big into technology. Cybertruck had me thinking Tesla,
I,
Tesla,
I
Tesla.
did
Like, let's
apply
go
for
look
the
at them.
yeah, yeah. I do also wanted the Cybertruck, right?
Hmm.
Katie doesn't like the shape. I think that is like uh, maybe it might be for dudes. Who
For
knows, right?
sure.
But yeah, I like the rawness of the triangle, and I think that is bigger when you see it than actually is on pictures. So but yeah, I'm also interested on the Cybertruck. I was looking to the Arabian, but I didn't like the aesthetics
Yeah.
uh, of the car. But yeah, let's jump into some of the technology. First of all, I'm probably gonna have to wire my garage because I don't have anything. So, do you have to hire someone
Yeah.
to install the charger?
Well, so what I did, we this was back in when they revealed the Cybertruck was back in 19, and we
Mm.
started building in 2020 in our house. So we already
Oh, so
knew.
you already knew
We
that you
already
will
knew.
have.
So
Okay.
so we wired it when they were doing when we were doing the plans. I told our person to wire on both sides of the garage because I had no clue where you plug in or
Mhm.
really how it worked. But we set up several actually outlets throughout the garage just to,
But
because I
20,
didn't know.
2020 or like the voltage? I think that
Yeah, well, I think they just use it's a higher current, right? I think I did 50 amp, maybe 50 or
Mm,
60 is what, and it's what they are. So they just run a thicker wire, I guess, in the walls to where I wanted it, and they just put a
okay.
plate. Since we didn't know, I didn't know what kind of outlets or anything, but now that we got the Model Y, we ended up whatchamacallit, putting a one. You gotta buy the charger from Tesla, and I think right
Yeah.
now it's maybe $400 or something like that.
Mhm.
They used to give it to you for free, and this is kind of one of my annoyances. Is like they started like nickeling and diming you, I think, but
Yeah.
I'll touch on that a little bit more. But yeah, so we had to buy the charger. What I did, I installed basically. I should look this up. It's the NEMA 40 or 50 outlet is basically similar to what, like, if you have an electric dryer. that
Mm-hmm.
uses, and since we already had the wiring there, I installed the outlet myself. So the
Okay.
outlet's installed there, and just plug in the charger that you buy from Tesla. It's got a
Okay.
couple of different like plug. I don't know what that's called. The plug
The
options.
outlet, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just plug it in, and it comes with maybe like a 20-foot cord,
Mm.
and we don't park. Man, I don't know about. I don't know. You probably know, but I still have a bunch of construction material in my garage.
No, man. I like shit mint. Like no. It's like this shit is going right. So I asked my construction crew. It's like, let's take these because we have a bunch of rentals. So we
Uh-huh.
use some of those, but some of the other
Ah,
ones, the materials don't like. I actually was able to return them. Like there are companies like Floor and Decor, right, for the
hmm,
wood flooring, the travertine, I like the stone, I like stone things. So we were able to return some of those for Home Depot. So yeah, that's what we did. We kept some, so
yeah.
when maybe something breaks, you can replace it. But yeah, we actually got very not different colors, right? So that way we can, and we know that it's classic, that it will
Hmm.
just outlast. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, we still do have some, and so in that area, that's where I would have parked my Model Y. But so we keep it right outside the garage, but the plug actually reaches to the driveway, so we just plug it out there. So, but all in all, it was actually pretty easy to install that outlet. It
Okay.
took me maybe like 30 minutes or something
All right.
because I already had all the wiring there. But I think
Yeah,
a lot of
I guess for
people,
the audience that they might have to start thinking. It requires 220. You said that 50 amps, but I was under the impression that you needed also 220 voltage. No,
no, no, I don't think so. Not on this one.
interesting. Okay, might be more efficient, right? Maybe they might have it. I need to take a look on that. That might be more efficient to charge faster. If
Yeah. I mean, it only goes up to, or mine, I set it to 30 amps.
Okay.
So it doesn't, we're charging overnight. So it'll charge in 6 hours. I don't know, something like that.
That's one of the things that kind of annoys me. That you can, how many miles that you can go, like 60 miles, like how many miles it will last you
So
the charge.
we got the Model Y long range, which
Hmm.
for the battery pack, I think it's 75 kilowatt hour, something like that.
Hmm.
And it's rated for 330 miles. Now it says that, but that's not what we get. I think that's like in ideal conditions. You don't have AC on, like you're going 40
Noisy.
miles an
And in
hour.
Texas, man, noisy is like, yeah,
Man,
right.
no, you'll bake in your own car. I mean, yeah, that doesn't tend to happen. But on a normal basis, we don't charge it up to 100% either. That's kind of to take care of the life of the battery. You usually
Hmm.
just charge up to 85 or 90%. We do 90%, so that gives you at around 300-mile range. So, for instance, we've been going to the beach a lot, Galveston and Freeport.
Hmm.
That's about 60 miles about. But by the time we get there, it's used up almost like 90 plus miles of range. And that's that I use the autopilot a lot. Autopilot is their kind of cruise
So you got
control,
it?
you can call it. No, it's not the full self driving. This is
Mm.
just what comes with the car.
Okay.
It's basically the cruise control, which
Mm.
it's kind of aggravating sometimes. Sometimes I'd rather not use it because it's
How
not.
so? What is the part that is annoying?
So okay, so I guess this is another piece to this. I also
Sure.
have Tesla insurance. So
Okay. What is
Tesla
that?
monitors. Basically, it's just an insurance. They're their own insurance company. So for Tesla, you can buy
Hmm.
insurance through Tesla. Like I used to have. I don't even remember who it was, but
Yeah, maybe one
they
of the
didn't.
big ones.
Yeah, they didn't offer Tesla. They didn't insure Teslas, so I had to change. I had to change insurance companies, and I was like, well, I'll just get Tesla because they make it super easy on the app. You just click a button. They're like, okay, yeah,
Dude,
well,
I do have a story there, man. So when I was in Twitter, and everybody knows Elon Musk purchase, right? So that's how he
yeah,
came to be my manager for several months. And when I was trying to pitch a project to him, because he runs meetings very interesting. So basically, you're pitching like I literally around the table, right? Just imagine 15 people, right? Executives for technology, right? And trying to figure out different ideas for the platform. And everybody's pitching their idea, two, three ideas. So when I was pitching my idea. My idea was to literally remove some paperwork. Like
Hmm.
literally, like nobody likes paperwork, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes companies they do what they have been doing for a while, and in Twitter that was no different, right? So then I pitched the idea like, hey, just trying to streamline all of this. So man, he went into a rant for 15 minutes. He's like, yeah, I'm all for it because, in Tesla, one of the things that we wanted to do is to remove all of the paperwork.
Hmm.
So, and that's basically, and he, at least Elon, he appreciates that streamlining. It has to be on
Yeah.
the app. It has to be on the web page. He was very annoyed when somebody has to send a fax or a or a paper, right?
Crazy. That's crazy, right? Faxing. We're in 2023, buddy. We can't be doing faxing.
Dude, I still think there is some. There are some legal. They have to change the legality on some laws because you have to
Yeah.
send some stupid fax, whether for health or whatever, right? Like for protection. Do you think
Hmm.
that fax might be more safe? That
I know, right? I don't think
yeah.
so. It's just, laws take a long time to change. But yeah, that's really interesting. And it shows, right? So streamlining stuff with the Tesla purchase, right? It was, you're clicking a few buttons and you're basically done.
Mm.
That's really what it is. And same thing with that insurance. To kind of getting back to the story. So I've got the Tesla insurance, and it's just a few button pushes on the app, right? And but what they do is it's a variable insurance rate. So it
Oh
it
wow! So
watches it watches your car, how you drive, and they charge you more if you're driving. I haven't ever seen it come down. It only goes up, I think. It's a one-way measure
oh
there.
wow!
Yeah. So, and not that I'm a bad driver. Hey, I've been driving since I was 16, 15.
Uh-huh.
And well, no, I don't want to say no tickets. I've gotten a couple of tickets, but in
Yeah,
the last 20 years, for sure, no tickets in the last 20 years. Right. And so like I consider myself a fairly safe driver.
I am not,
But
man. It's like that's one of the things that I'm. It's like, dude, again, race cars, right? I was driving a,
yeah,
and
that's
and
true.
I got like 25 tickets, man. So the
25?
yeah, I so not just this though, because I was also trying to get my citizenship, right? And
Oh
like
no.
crap, all of those came in my record, right? And some of them I have
Yeah.
to dispute because I disagree.
Hey, you're feeding into the stereotype here, man.
I guess, man, but I mean, it is what it is, right? I need to be upfront about it. So, uh, yeah, I got better because I got a letter. So basically, the letter that I got it was if I got another ticket, they will literally give me a different pricing.
Oh yeah,
So
for
they
sure.
they keep increasing, and in some obviously I will get my license to get taken away as well. So
Hmm.
that's the reason why my wife Katie sometimes drives.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
just want to get
well,
there, man.
Elon streamlined that part too, man. He'll raise your rates just like nothing. So they
Yeah,
they
yeah.
send you an email every month like, "Hey, your rates went up again." And I'm like, shit.
And usually are speeding tickets, by the way, just for
uh,
the audience. I'm not reckless on my driving. It's
yeah.
just speeding tickets, but it's still, yeah, there were so many, and yeah, it was a mess when I was trying to get my citizenship
Mm.
because that's part of the one of the questions, right? How many
Oh,
tickets and all that.
interesting.
So yeah, it's
Oh,
part of that.
wow. That's hey. If y'all are working on y'all's papers on your papeles, don't get tickets. They're gonna ask
Don't
you
get
about it.
tickets, man. Yeah, don't get tickets. I was a fool, right? So I didn't saw that coming. So the other one now that we are mentioning that there are two things that kind of caught me out guard. One, it was the number of tickets. Obviously, if you
Hmm.
have criminal records, that's going to be a problem as well, right? But
Yeah.
the second one that I didn't know though, it was the travel. Like if you have your passport from your country, they
Hmm.
ask you, not sure lately, but before when I applied last 5 years or so,
Hmm.
they used to ask you to disclose the last 5 years. Dude, I have visited, I don't know, 20 countries in that time, right? Like,
Yeah.
and crap, like, and I didn't have the record, right? Like, I just have to literally go to my passport to see all of the the stamps in the different countries, and some of them they are blurry, right? Because and some of the
Yeah.
other ones they stamp on top of the other ones. So that was a mess because they check in their system, I guess, if
Yeah.
where are you traveling for the past time. So that's the other thing that you need to keep doing if you're doing your papeles. You have to account where you have been for the last 5 years.
Hmm. Yeah. Hey, interesting points. Yeah, it's kind of funny how all of that plays into it. But hey, when it makes people when they're coming over there, they're not bad hombres and being safe, right? So,
For sure. Going back to the Tesla though, what is
well,
the go ahead.
I was going to just say so. The autopilot usually when we're going up and down to Galveston, I'm usually using the autopilot, which is basically
Mm,
their cruise control. But get this, like sometimes I think sometimes it's like more relaxing if I don't use it. And I'll tell you why. It's not because necessarily it does a bad job or anything like that, but
mhm.
there's so many like dings and beeps and ding dong ding. And literally every time I hear that, I'm like traumatized thinking, oh, another $5 on my insurance, right? I'm like, I don't know if it's going to
You're
count it
right now
against me
like
or
twitching, right?
what. Yeah,
You're
it's like, no,
twitching now.
oh,
Ah, you're
this
like a
is
Homer Simpson.
yeah. It's like, and every 15 seconds you got to wiggle the steering wheel like
uh,
to I mean my hand's always on there. Like I don't feel
it,
comfortable enough to trust it, but you got to like wiggle it, and that's pretty annoying too. So sometimes I feel like it's too much. Like it's not streamlined enough yet, right?
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
easy enough yet. Let me turn it off. I need to like just listen to some tunes and enjoy the drive
Uh,
up there.
something funny though. Again, I live in Seattle, live in Austin, right? So there was a lot of Teslas, so had a lot of friends that they had it. Um, but here in Texas, I have a friend, and you know him, George.
Hmm.
His wife. Suddenly, I traveled with them for to do whatever, right? And I was on the back, and I see that they have like a kind of like a cushion in behind the neck, and that was
Mm.
weird though. It's like, but that was something that they just rigged themselves,
Oh,
and
okay.
and I asked them, "What is that?" And then his wife is like, "This is for my neck." Because this car sometimes can accelerate so quickly and actually bounces her head.
It's
So
got some torque.
it does have some torque, and I asked my buddies like, "Hey, could you just accelerate?" And yeah, you can feel the boom, like very
Mm.
quickly from zero to whatever, right?
Yeah.
It moves pretty fast. And yeah, that was interesting that she needed to have like a cushion. Uh, and but I got sick though when I was behind the seat on that car.
Hmm.
And one of them it was for me was the way he set it up to adjust the brakes. So in that way,
Hmm.
it uses the motor, I guess, instead of the gears, instead of the actual pedal. And yeah, it's good because you don't have to use your brake pads.
Hmm.
But there is something there because the car is trying to adjust, and it's different from a human. I guess it's more optimal, um, but it's different on the pattern. Like for me, when I'm stopping, I'm trying to stop way behind, so I'm going very gradual. So almost you don't feel it as a person because it's very smooth. At least that's how I like to drive. I like to drive smooth.
Smooth.
So, but with the car, with the Tesla, I feel that it's abruptly, like boom, like kind of abrupt. And again, I do like luxury, right? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. That's the reason why I like Mercedes, BMWs, and so on because I like the car to be like luxurious, and it's not for the pretentiousness. It's more about the comfort. For me,
Comfort and
it's comfort.
performance. I like
Yes, and
performance. Yeah. Yeah.
those two, right? The comfort and performance. Obviously, I like some aesthetics, right? But to be honest, just be honest. A freaking like BMW is not as much different as a Lexus or as much different as a freaking like Toyota, right? Like
Mm,
whatever,
mm.
man, takes you somewhere. But but I think but I think that there are these details are the ones that for sure I really like the Tesla, like just remove all of the buttons, remove all of the things on the that's slick, like there is no like just almost like a huge iPad there, right? Like and everything is just through the touchpad, which is that's one of the for me is one of the beauties of the car.
I will say, okay, so uh, it took a little bit not to get used to it, but I think coming from a BMW, uh, you're used to it maybe a little bit. I mean, they're not. I think BMWs are still known as somewhat utilitarian, and they're not
Mm,
super technology forward. And that's one of the things that excited me about the Model Y is like it's more technology forward, but there's still some things that they just get right that aren't quite right or there on the Model Y. But you forget about that, and I think that's one of the things that really drove us to that you mentioned, the acceleration. That's what's like
mhm,
sold us. But they nickel and dime you, man. I didn't realize this when we bought it. They give you like a free acceleration boost, is what they call it. We got the
mhm.
long range, right? So we
Okay.
prioritize the range over the performance. But they for $2,000, you can buy that extra performance boost. It doesn't get you
Mm,
to the performance Tesla Model Y levels quite,
mhm.
but it gets you like halfway there. So you get a little extra boost. After the first month, they take that away from you, and you're like, it's not the same. You're like pushing, it's not what's going on. And then you get the little ad, bing, $2,000 for acceleration boost. I'm like, oh,
Dude,
why,
and
why you do
that's
this to
yeah,
us, man?
and I hate that of products where you have it there, you already spend on the hardware, right? This is just freaking software on the firmware on the device, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know, man. If I get the Tesla, I might fucking hack it, right? Like
I thought
it's
about
like
it, buddy. I'm telling you.
like a jailbreaker, right?
Yeah. Well,
I don't
yeah,
know.
it's
I do agree
that
with you.
that was a really annoying, and but even without the acceleration boost, it's still really fast. It's fun. Like someone cuts you off, you're just like you just go around them, or no, you do the safe thing and like back off.
So
They're
you're
listening,
you're
I
the-
think.
you're the good cop and the bad cop.
Yeah, but that straight up, it's that performance that we're like, okay, we can look past everything else because there's a
Mhm.
lots of little things here and there that aren't quite right, I think. But the performance really outweighs everything else, and that's why Sandra loves it. Like
Mm.
she's like, don't talk bad about my car. Like, but it's like
It's my
they're
baby.
so close. They're so close. If they just did this, it would be like perfect. But she
It's
loves
been
it, and
years,
she's
man.
it's her car. She drives it. She drives it every
Sure.
day. So
Yeah, yeah. I think that very soon I might have to change it. But I'm waiting for the Cybertruck, right? If it is that, if not, the other ones, nah, don't. The other one is if BMW and Mercedes they start getting into the EV cars, right? They have
yeah,
their own
they do.
versions, but I don't know. That hasn't convinced me yet.
They're kind of expensive. At least the ones that I like the visuals. Like if it's for
Mm-hmm.
me, right? I
Mm-hmm.
like that's why I like the Cybertruck. Now, I will say when I first saw the Cybertruck, I was following like the whole lead up to it being announced like back in 2019. I was waiting
Mm-hmm.
for it. I'm like, this thing is going to be so cool. And then when it came out on stage, I'm like, wait a minute, is this a joke? Like literally, I'm like, is this a joke? I was at
Expand
the
to the audience why it was a joke or what happened.
yeah.
I know what you mean, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I was at the time I was actually at in San Francisco for Dreamforce conference,
Mm.
uh, and for Salesforce. So I was I was in a scary ass motel. I am telling you, like we don't like my job doesn't pay that much for our hotels. And by the way, in those Salesforce conferences, there's nothing available. So like I literally was in a scary motel, and I'm there on my laptop watching whatchamacallit, the release of the announcement of the
Mm-hmm.
Cybertruck. And so like having waited for it, already, it felt long for just to see the design. They
Mm-hmm.
roll it out and it's this triangle. That's all it's a triangle. And I'm like,
A
is this
metal
real?
triangle.
Like I'm like, okay, I know Elon's trying to be funny, trying to troll us or something. This is not real. This is a fake. Like this
uh,
is a joke. Like, no, but that was it. And when I first saw it, I'm like, it's just ugly.
yeah.
I'm like, ugh, but the weird thing is, and so I didn't put in a reservation that night.
Mm-hmm.
But I slept on it, and I'm like, and by the way, in this motel, I laid out my jacket on the bed and I slept on my jacket, like curled up like this because I
You
didn't
didn't
want to
want butt
sleep in
bags?
the bed. And then I was like this and I slept 4 hours and I woke up. But, and the next day, I was like, you know what? I saw the picture, I'm reading all the stories about it again. Everyone's same thing because you hear about the ball that breaks the window, and Elon's
Yep,
like,
yep.
well, there's room for improvement. All the stories, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what? It's growing on me. Like in general, I like things that are different. I don't
Mm-hmm.
tend to follow, not for the sake of being different. A lot of my tastes aren't necessarily the same as what other folks have. And so I'm like, it's growing on me. I kind of like it. And so that's when I put my reservation in the following day. Still within 24 hours of the announcement. But and I'm like, you know what? $100 is not going to hurt. So I put in the reservation, and from then it just kind of grew, and a lot of the technology that's supposed to be in it, I'm super excited about it. Hopefully, the full self driving is getting close to being ready because when you put a reservation, I want the full self driving, which was like a
Mm-hmm.
$7,000 option at the time, 6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah.
So hopefully that price doesn't change because right now it's like at 15K.
They are advancing as well a lot with the robots as well, right? And
Mhm.
with the, I know that sometimes oversell it, right? Because they said that they will have like self-driving cars like already, right? But it's
Yeah.
still a little bit far away from it. It's getting there though. I do have
Yeah.
a couple friends that they work on Tesla and as well in cruise. So
Mhm.
technology is getting very close to get there.
Yeah, I think so. I would say, I mean, it's very usable now. I mean, they call it's in beta, but I think there's some regulatory stuff they probably have to get through. But
Also,
it's usable. It's not 100% though.
you also told me about the bad paint. What do you meant with that was annoying about the bad paint?
Oh, so my wife always gets black vehicles. That's just what I tried to get her different. She like we bought one a different color, and
Hmm.
she like kept saying nope, nope, no, no. So we sold it and got her a black. So she's like always black. So we're like, okay, well, Tesla doesn't have that many paint options, but
Hmm.
they added black. Black's an option, and it's an upgrade just to get black paint. It's like an extra two
Really?
two thousand
Like
dollars or something
you're
for
right. They're
black.
like,
For black, yeah. They again, I'm telling you, nickel and diming you. I want black paint, $2,000. Okay,
oh
it's
wow,
like
what the heck?
that's why you see a lot of white Teslas out there because that's their base.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. That's
there's no upcharge for that one. So $2,000. So you're thinking, okay, it's a black car or whatever.
hmm.
No big deal. One, when I get it, and actually I rejected the first Model Y they gave me. I
Uh-huh.
rejected. I said, no, I don't want this shit. Take it
Why?
back. And the guy was getting mad at me because I didn't want it. He's like, well, don't you want a Tesla? I was like, yes, that's why I'm here. But I want one that looks good. The paint on the hood was, I don't even know how to call it. It was underneath the clear paint. So it's like when they sprayed it, it
Uh-huh.
did not get sprayed well. And you could see lines across the hood, horizontal all the way
Mm.
down, like
Wow.
like it was runny or something like that. So I said, that's not normal. And this I don't know what you call
Salesperson,
him, the
huh?
sales guy.
The
He's
rep,
like, no,
yeah.
no, no, that's normal. And I was like, okay. I said, when you pick up your car, they have several cars on the lot from people. They make reservations. You go pick up your car. You go look at it. Like, yeah, I love it. Well, I didn't love it. So I said, he's like, no, they're all like this. I was like, okay. I walked the one next to her. I said, "Look at this hood. Does the paint look like that?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "Well, that's just the way the black ones are." I was like, "Okay." The next one was a black one. I walked over to that hood. I was like, "Does this hood look like that?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Yeah, I'm not taking this." He's like, "Well, maybe we can fix it." And I'm like, "Really? You're gonna fix that? You're gonna repaint my whole hood?" I'd rather not. He's like, "Well, are there any other problems?" Walked around, like the whole driver's side door had scratches down the side. Like,
Wow.
are they even
They were
looking?
planning to give you a refurbish.
They were giving me a reject, I think. And, it showed. I'm like, I don't, because they must look at these before. Like, they're
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
shining them up and stuff. So they,
yeah.
like, in my eyes, I'm like, they purposely were trying to give me a dud, right? A bad
Hmm.
one. And so
Yeah.
I
A
was
lemon.
like, I'm not
A
taking,
lemon.
I'm not taking this. Like, no, let's go figure out. They're like, well, let's see what else we have available. The guy tried to upsell me to a red performance with white interior. I'm like, hey, it doesn't sound too bad, but it's an extra 12 grand. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. And well, it's Sandra's car also. And she's like, no, I want black. Okay. So we put in another order. So we got one a couple weeks later, something like that. And that one was fine.
Mm.
But the paint though, I will say it's got a lot of rock chips already, and we don't drive it very much. We don't drive it very far. I would say
Hmm.
the condition now, we've had it maybe 4 months. It's almost at the same condition of my BMW's paint after 9 years. So it's not very hard, and it could be that it's just soft paint. I have no clue, but I've read about other people that also have similar experiences. The paint just doesn't hold up, and what a lot of people end up doing is they put in those clear protective things. But I'm
Hmm.
like, that's another like 4 or 5 grand. I already paid 2,000 for this upgraded paint.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be 6 grand in just for the paint on this car. I'm like, that's ridiculous. So I treat it more as a utility. It's not luxury. It's more of a like gets you from A to B and it does it quickly. So I don't see it as like I got to baby it, because from the start when we got it, it was not like
Hmm.
the paint was great and all that. There was lots of little things here and there.
I do have a question though. Maybe this might put you in the spot. You like cars. Have you thought about it like a Ferrari or Lambo, right? Like these are nice cars, luxury cars,
Yeah.
but it's still, uh, what's your take there on kind of those type of different kind of cars, right? I mean,
Okay, so yeah, that's a great read. I am definitely a car person ever since I was a kid, all about cars. Actually, my dad was a mechanic. That's what he did as his profession growing up. So, ever since then, I see him fixing cars, and he would always do
mhm,
stuff at home too. Uh, we couldn't afford a lot of nice cars growing up, but we did all right. But my dad would always be fixing them and stuff like that. And so we always had a connection there. And so even as a kid, I was interested in like sports cars and things like that. So
mhm.
I've found ways just to get into sports cars, and like I mentioned, I had a Cayman Sport Porsche. That was kind of like really really fun car. In terms of like Lambos, Ferrari, stuff like that. I mean, I've been weighing it. So if for some reason the Cybertruck like doesn't come through, or something happens, like I don't
Yeah,
like it, it doesn't have enough range, or it's too expensive because we don't even know how much it's going to be right now.
yeah,
That's actually probably my backup plan. Is what? I don't need a daily driver
yeah,
necessarily because I work from home full time. So I don't have to drive anywhere for work really on a day to day basis, and you know um, so I sold my car a long time ago, so I don't have a car of my own. It's just my
mhm,
wife, and we share it. But a fun car would be fun to have, and I've been saving for one, a long time. So
mhm.
hopefully, using those funds for a Cybertruck. But if that doesn't happen, yeah, I'm definitely looking at on the used car market, something that's going to be able to hold its value, something that's
Yeah,
already depreciated. So if you're looking like at maybe a 10-year-old Ferrari or something like that. Or I think I'm really more of a like a little baby
Lambo.
Lambo. That would be nice. So I'd be looking at that. And man, before pandemic prices, I'm like, every so often I'm looking to see what's on the market.
Mhm.
I can see what I can buy. When the pandemic came, though, like those prices shot up, and it's like, ooh, I'm
Uh,
paying 25,000 more for something I could have gotten, a year
well,
or two ago.
too
It's
late,
like,
right? I mean, it's like
yeah,
inflation and shit happened already. So,
it's
uh,
coming down a little bit though.
okay, in exactly on the 2020, there were good deals, right? Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I was very close to as well to pull the trigger there. And I got clearance from the wife.
Hmm.
So, but and a red Ferrari, right? I like the red Ferrari, just the typical. And I did a lot of introspection on myself, right? When I was about to literally, I got the money in the bank, right? So like, man, what is it, right? What is the thing that I want this so bad? And I just came to the conclusion, it's fucking ego, man. It's like there is no other thing, but it's just ego. But then I start looking into other people. They just are driving these things. I don't know, and yes, that's one of the topics that we're gonna discuss after we finish Tesla. But uh, or did you finish Tesla? Maybe we can actually. That's something very important to keep going
Yeah,
on the next
you know
topic.
what? I think there's more questions around the Tesla, but maybe we can, talk about them in another episode and just kind of dive into this. Yeah, like I think you're getting towards like how our relationship around money and things like that, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and because I'm one of our subscribers. It was interesting. Send me some feedback, right? Who's like, hey,
mhm.
could you touch base on Hispanics and how they see money? And basically, I respond and it says, hey, it looks like money is evil, and it's not the first time that I hear that, right? Like I see. I'm not trying to generalize because obviously generalizations are always bad, but
Yeah.
I know that there is a lot of people out there thinking that they have that relation where sometimes they're thinking that money is like only people that are gangsters when they see a lot of money, because sometimes it's like from lower income, right? And sometimes, well, this person has money, then might be a drug dealer or might be a narco, right? Or maybe might be a politician, because whatever, right? They know how to talk, they know how to sell, and basically, if they are that, they are corrupt, right? So it has a bad connotation that money is evil. and
Yeah.
and then going back to my story of the Ferrari, that is that mindset. It creeps on you, right? Like yeah, kind of trying to. For me, I think that I have a good relation, a good understanding, right? For me, money is kind of a tool that it will allow you to expand who you truly are, right? If you're an asshole, when you have money, you're gonna be a bigger asshole. So
It amplifies. It just
it
amplifies, right?
amplifies. So it's one of the things, and yeah, there is obviously a lot of different terminologies to define money. But for me, that's one that I notice the most. It amplifies who you are. So, but you have to kind of integrate, right? So then this subscriber told me this, which ties to what I was thinking about the car, right? On what I'm trying to do or project. What's your take on the Hispanics and money, on the mindset around it?
Um, that's it's a really interesting. I think for me growing up, like touching a little bit on the cars, right? We
Hmm.
used to have the car posters and stuff like that. It's like very aspirational. It almost seemed like those things were
Out of
unobtainable,
reach. Out
out
of
of
reach.
reach. Like, it's just like something that's not real. It's a decoration. It's
Hmm.
kind of cool. But, as we grew, I mean, you find that some of these things are within reach. And so, you start doing things. But I have an interesting story. A couple of things related to my house. So we built kind of like our forever home, right? And with sweat equity, because I know you did too, but I
Hmm.
I worked on the house myself. It's not like we paid someone to build the house for us, like in terms of, from A to B. Only way to do it was for me to be very involved and manage the build, basically
Mm-hmm.
like as a GC, right? I partnered with someone that had done some of this before, like an architect, to get plans together, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it was with us. But in building this house, um, he almost questioned me, like, "Hey, how can you afford this? Like, are you like doing something like?" And I'm like, "No, man, no.
Yeah.
I just, my wife and I just have good jobs, and we've saved. We're not big spenders on like, frivolous things. We make goals and we try to work towards them." And he's
Yeah.
like, because like he was like incredulous that,
Yeah. That it
and
was
and
legit.
I don't want to put him in a bad picture or anything. It's just, I don't know exactly what his thought process was, but he was just like, you don't normally see people like
You don't
you
though. And I'm also
having a house like that.
similar on when we were building. We were paying in cash. Like a lot of people, they
Hmm.
have like basically a loan, right? And sometimes
Hmm.
I'm being very public, right, in a podcast, but just for
Hmm.
people to see, right, that this happens, which is basically people have these connotations or these impressions. And when we were trying to get some material, it's like, hey, do you need to have a form for your bank, because there is a lot of process, right, to be able to get the approvals
Hmm.
for the bank. And it was very hard for us because obviously we didn't want to say, hey, no, this is like, like I have the money in the bank, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it
Hmm.
put us in a spot where like, oh man, like we just actually did it on the company. So I have my own company,
Hmm.
and I done it in that way. It looked like a construction company, which basically was my property companies, right? So,
Hmm.
but yes, I think that people think that how come these, I guess, brown people, they're able to
Yeah.
get this amount of money, right? To be able to afford this type of things, right?
Yeah, yeah, very true. And I would say, it was not like a thing between us, between the
Yeah,
person that
yeah.
was working with, but it was kind of funny. We kind of used it a little bit to our advantage because it was he's a like a tall white guy, uh, very American looking, right? And so we kind of use it to our advantage because I would go into negotiations with a lot of our workers and things like that, not them not knowing that I'm the actual owner. A lot of times they thought
That you were
he was
building to
the owner,
somebody else.
that I was
Okay.
I was the one that was like the contractor, and my architect was the owner, and that happened a lot, all throughout the whole build. And it's just kind of these assumptions. I never like, it didn't necessarily bother me or anything like that, where I went out of my way to like correct people or anything like that. But it's really funny. My neighbor at the time even came in while we were building without
Mm-hmm.
asking permission, or like, people would just show up, right? And they're like walking around the house, and me and my architect were talking just in, planning stuff like that, and they didn't even like acknowledge us, like, or me. They looked to my architect and talked to him. Yes. But like, I'm just a worker, right? When
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, yeah, this is my house. So it's really interesting to see that. I mean, just kind of funny things throughout this whole process. But even with all the workers, I was able to get better deals on a lot of these things. And even like, I'm trying to build a fence, dude, around my
Mm-hmm.
house, just because we still have kind of the old fence that was here before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting quotes of like $100,000. I'm like, for a fence, y'all are
For a
crazy.
face.
Like, I don't understand it, because I was like, no, I'm gonna go down the normal route, just like
Mm-hmm.
get a bid, whatever, a
Yeah,
quote for
sure.
someone to do it. No, I'm gonna probably end up doing the same thing that we built the house, and I got some bids, and we can do it probably for
Yeah,
like 20,000.
yeah, I bet.
So it's a fifth of the cost. So it's interesting things there.
I think that money in regard is it is complex, right? It might be cultural, right? It might be kind of your beliefs. So sometimes it might be coming from religion, right? Uh, there is a couple stories in the Bible, though. Are you familiar with There is a passage that in Matthew says, I'll say it again, it's easy for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. Dude, I mean, you know that the majority of Hispanics are like Christians, right?
Yeah,
And you see
correct.
this like in the Bible, it confuses you, right? Like what the heck,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
But
That's-
there are also other interesting stories. Are you familiar with the Bible story of the talents? It's a
Mm-mm.
parable of the talents. So I'll summarize it, but basically, I recommend that. That's one of my favorite stories on the Bible. Um, Even if you're not a believer, right? Sometimes you have to see that the Bible has very good stories to teach you to be a human being, independently of the beliefs or the magic stuff or not. If you are,
Sure.
good for you. If you're not, good for you, right? I'm not judging. But some stories are like, I give a lot of weight to information of stories that they have been transcending thousands of years, right? And that
Hmm.
story is basically it refers to they call it the Lord. Sometimes it's hard to because it's interpretation, right? And sometimes Bible is who is reading it and how you're reading it, and sometimes it has been translated to many languages. But they say the Lord, which you can think about God, or you can think maybe a rich person that used to own land or whatever, right? So, but let's just call it the Lord. So the Lord basically comes and has three servants, and in entrusted an amount of talents. They kind of mention it that is kind of gold, which is a talent is almost like a coin. But again, these stories are so kind of generic that it might be your gifts, or it might be something that God gave you, right? Or it could be even money that they gave you.
Hmm.
And basically, to make the story shorter, three servants. One servant gets 3 coins, the other one gets 2 coins, and the other one gets 1 coin, something like that. Right? I'm butchering the story, but if you want, you can just read it. It's in your Bible. But the idea was that basically the Lord comes back in some time and asks each of them what they have done with their talents. And the person that have the most is like, hey, I know that you give me this, and I just multiply it, and I multiply it like many times, right? Many times more. So good job, you did a good job there. So then asked to the person in the middle, well, I didn't have that much, but I also was able to work hard, and I was able to increase with some investments and some merchants and whatever, and I also was able to get a little bit more. And the person that got only the one talent is like, I was so worried to lose your talent or the money that I just bury it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Lord gets mad with that person, right? And with that servant. It's like, how you dare to bury the talent? Actually, your talent, you're going to give it to the one that make the most. For me, it's a very interesting parable because how come the person that has the least gets at the end nothing?
Nothing.
It's a weird one, but it's about wealth. The story is about distribution of wealth and distribution of uh, how it is. And if you think about it, the people sometimes, in this case, the person that had the most, sure, you can start with the most, right? But maybe you might transcribe those talents into skills, right? Then you get more. And sometimes it's the value that you are providing to whether your family, society, or whatever, that you will be able to get rewarded. So I think that
Hmm.
for me, that's how I'm able to integrate a little bit of the kind of the my family background, my culture, right, and how I'm integrating all of these ideals and beliefs uh, about money. What's your take?
Uh, it's a very interesting story. I don't think I've heard it like that before, but I it reminds me of kind of some things that when I was growing up, some things that happened to me. I've always been like saver, like I would
Hmm.
get like birthday money, I would save it. I never spend it. I would get I would do little jobs here, I would save it. And a certain time came that I would have my little school box
Yeah.
a pencil box, but that's where I would have my quarters, dollars, whatever saved up. And I had probably 100, 200 bucks saved up after. This is like years of stuff, right? Years of saving. And one day my house got broken into and it got stolen. And that's something that taught me something. You're like, well, yeah, that's pretty shitty. Like a freaking, 6-year-old gets their life savings stolen. But it's like always have like a purpose. Don't just save just for the sake of saving. I know it's hard for a lot of people to spend. I don't tend to be a spender by nature. But what I've
Mhm.
done in order to kind of overcome that, because I think this experience, and that's not the only experience where I've saved and had something and been stolen or taken away,
Mhm.
but it's given me that mindset like, okay, have those goals in place. What's your plan? Yes, you're working really really hard every day to get this paycheck, to get this money, but what can you do to impact your life, the life of others, people that need help? Have a
Mhm.
plan so you can make the most of this, make the most of your talent, make the most of the money, make the most of the outcomes that you're trying to generate. And so a lot of the things that, man, brother, I work so hard all the time, but it always goes back to this thing when I was a kid. It's like, yeah, I'm working hard, I'm saving money, I'm doing these things, but have a plan, have a goal in mind, spend the money, but spend it in a way that's going to be, treat yourself, but also do that's going to be good. And so not only am I working on things like, of course, I worked on my house, my home, things like that, but I'm also looking at ways to not profit. How can I help others? How can I teach others?
This pod,
These are
man,
like
right? Is part of
important
our time.
lessons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly right. So, money's a hard thing to talk about. It's very taboo in a lot of places, and I tend to be open about it because I want to help others.
Mhm.
A lot of it's not something that you get taught like in school and stuff like that.
No.
It's stuff that you get taught, hard knocks in life sometimes. So if I can help someone else, avoid those drawbacks and things like that, use my lessons learned, even better. So I think that's something super important, and I'm so happy and so glad that we have the opportunity to talk about these things in an open forum. It's a safe space, Gomez, um, where we can talk about these things and hopefully inspire a lot of people. It does. Nothing's easy in life. Some people have a little bit of a head start. That's true. You can't deny that, but really, hard work and try to be smart with the things that you're doing. You're gonna be able to climb the ladder and get a little bit further.
What is that percentage? Maybe your bias is to save, right? And for other people, it's the opposite, right? It's like to
It's the
spend.
opposite. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so what is your, in your opinion, a good start? Obviously, the more the merrier. But in some point it becomes suboptimal. But what is a good thing? I do have a number that might work to majority of people. But
What do you
what's your
mean?
number?
Like a
I
number of
think
what?
a number of for saving, like from your income, right? From if
Uh,
they're paying you like a weekly or they're paying you like a month or a year, like what is that percentage, right?
uh, that is hard for me. I know some people set up like, hey, this is the amount that you use for, like, this is your mad money. You go and spend whatever you want,
your
and
mad money. I like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
mad money. It's like that's, and you have that every month and you go spend it. But for me, by default, everything goes into savings. I go through like in my mind methodically. Okay, we're if we need to buy something, let's talk about it, let's plan it, and then we spend it. It's not like I'm gonna by default spend 500 bucks every month just because I can.
Well,
I don't
let,
approach it that way.
let's remember, right? Like when somebody, maybe somebody that is younger, right? Like there are some fixed costs, right? Like you have to live. You have your
Exactly.
apartment, you have your bills, right? And
Hmm.
I'm trying to provide a tactical advice here, right? A practical. So I hear a lot of people sometimes, and because sometimes you might detach, and sometimes you might think, well, everybody should be able to afford this, or everybody should be like, but no, right? There's people that they don't, right? And it's hard for them to save. And one number that I have noticed repeatedly coming up is 10%. Even in religions, tithing, right? Like your 10%. I think that 10% is not so much, but not so little. It's kind of a sweet spot. I'm not saying, obviously, like I said, if you are able to have 50%, be my guest, right? 70% of savings, even better, right?
Yeah.
Because it literally will be the amount of years that you want to be able to kind of retire. But that was what I was coming from, kind of a number.
Yeah. For savings, I don't know. I'd bump it up. I would say
Once
like,
again,
but again, like you mentioned, there's fixed costs. Sometimes
yeah.
people, uh, there's a lot of things have been coming up recently just because inflation. The economy is kind of struggling in some respects. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. So
Yeah.
they're even 10% is going to be a stretch, and
But
that's
then
really
that's
hard because
actually
how can you get ahead if you can't even save?
that's one, last time in one of the episodes in the back we were saying learning English, right?
Hmm.
Kind of another like rule for life. It's you have to save,
Yeah,
and then that means that if you're not making enough money for you to be able to save, you're gonna have to have multiple side hustles, right? I mean,
yeah.
that's that's kind of the thing. So
I
uh,
mean, the good thing is our people, they're not afraid of hard work,
yep.
and so that's what it takes. I mean, sometimes, yeah, you've got to rely on some things breaking your way, getting lucky. Some people take
Then
the traditional route, going to school. I mean, that's what I ended up doing, and it did work out. I did more engineering, so I mean, even better, right? But you know, it's
there
hard.
are multiple ways to win the game, man. You
Yeah.
can be, dude. I know people. I know Hispanics guys that they didn't even finish middle school, and they are
Mm.
multimillionaires, right? Like they are like one of the wealthiest families in Houston, right? So
Hmm.
again, you can win in many different ways, but mindset is very important, right? We have been touching base on mindset and kind of call to action, and let's unpack a little bit that. I think that sometimes it might translate into you're lazy, right? You're procrastinating. I don't have a good mindset. Nobody's teaching me. No, like I was born in here. Sometimes I notice when people I'm talking to them, I'll see the level of awareness, and the level of awareness when you're talking to someone. Sometimes they might be starting to blame, like the universe, like the circumstances. I was in
Hmm.
Mexico. I was poor, like or different country, right? Like I'm literally broke because of that situation, right?
Yeah.
So then they start moving into blaming someone. That's kind of the second awareness, I guess, layer, which is like, well, my family was poor. I was not born into a rich family, etc., etc. But the trick, in my opinion, on awareness is to make it everything your fault, right? Yeah, there are some things that you don't decide. You don't decide who are your parents. You don't decide who's your family. But when you get older, you can decide where you want to live. You can decide what you want to study. You can decide who's your identity. What do you want to work, right? So that level of awareness of knowing what you are lacking or what do you want, it will allow you, in my opinion, to set your priorities straight. What's your take there?
Yeah. Very interesting kind of the choice of words there because, yes, people's circumstances, they were born into different circumstances and a lot of those things are out of your control. But your next step is within your control. Certainly you've got to be able to take stock of where you are in your life. Uh, Awareness is kind of that number one step, is being able to self-assess, understand where you are, understand where you want to be. And I don't think it has to necessarily do about laziness or procrastination. Okay, maybe there might be some part of it is that it's just, but I think people approach problems in different ways, and being aware of how you approach problems versus how someone else approaches problems is going to be key. So, and the thing is that the funny thing is like, someone that's always like go go go, like ready to take the next step, no matter the
Yeah.
risk, no matter the whatever, they might see the other person as lazy, but from the that person's perspective, they're being methodical, or they're taking a look at all of the risks, what can go wrong, what are the things that need to be done before putting together a plan, and they see the other person as irresponsible, or not, or not doing the necessary things that is going to protect their safety or their family and things like that. So everyone's got different circumstances, and just remember, like, viewpoints are just going to be different by default, and everybody operates a little bit differently. Now, that's not to say that you can't learn from each other, right? I think I alluded to this previously. Like, I know, Gomez, you're a very high performer. You can move forward very quickly. Um, Something that I love about our relationship is that you can drive things forward. I know, I like to take a look at some things, do a lot of research and things like that. Not to say I'm all the way, like, it's not like a 0 or 1, or just extremes. You're on continuums, right? You
Hmm.
can be in the middle, and I think I'm a little bit more in the middle. I tend to be that way. I'm not all the way like no action researching, but I'm also not all action no thought. And so
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of in there. But I think having awareness of that and being real about your shortcomings is something that's very important. And so for me, I'm like, hey, Mando, I know that I can count on you to help drive things forward. We're going to be a good partner, and that might be a good way for people to see things, instead of saying, ah, they're into this circumstance, like that works for them, it's never going to work for me. Don't
Hmm.
look at it that way. Say,
No, not at
hey,
all.
how can we work together? Because more than likely, you have strengths that other person doesn't have, and it's going to be a better match, a better fit. So look at it that way. How can you have a partnership with other people that aren't like you, but they
Yep.
bring something to the table, same way that you're going to bring something to the table, and that makes you both stronger, in the end.
Yeah, and that comes back to have awareness, right? And to keep piling on this kind of a skill set for your mindset is having that clarity. And how do you have clarity? It, write it down. As simple as that. If you literally have a page, like just look, I always have something like close to me to be able to write, right? And you don't have to expand it. You don't have to be, you don't have to expand. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You guys, if you guys are listening on the only voice, we are kind of showing here our notebooks, but um, I think that just running your ideas down and being methodical, that always have some pen and paper. There's something about it. This is not me just telling you. It's literally, I hate to write. I'm telling you, like my hand, like is pretty bad. I only type. I'm a techie, right? But I use it because there's something on the hand and your brain that makes there some connections on your neuroplasticity that allows you to have that clarity on critical thinking. So you start there. It's like, well, see where you are, write it down. What are the things that you're good? What are the things that you're lacking? And yes, I'm gonna hear some people, yeah, but what about if I'm not good at anything? That's good. Then you have the awareness that you suck. Then how you get better, right? So it's like just write it down and then move forward,
Only
right?
up from
Then
there. Only
only
up from
up,
there, right?
only up, right? So it's like yeah, mofos, don't tell me that bullshit, right? So I know that there are limitations, but you have to work with the limitations that you have, right? And that's kind of the thing. Which the next ones are more, and we will discuss some of these. We'll unpack these as we keep progressing on the pod. The next ones is basically you have to plan, and then you have to have a strategy, right? A little bit more awareness and more. And then you have to have a vision. Where are you going, right? You might have to go back to even your board of directors. Who is your advisors? Who are those people that they are like helping you, right?
Yeah.
And but you can be so specific. Like one of the things that I did a couple years to my kids is just to put pictures of a vision board, and they were looking at me like, "What the heck, Dad?" They're like, "What is this,
Like,
dude? You are
that's too
planting."
woo woo, Dad. Are you sure?
Yes, and dude, it works. I That's for me. That's the. I'm not into manifestation, but that's actually in my mind what manifestation is about. The house that I built, I know me. I might not stay here in this house for forever, uh, but I kind of had that house for many years, like maybe 10 years. I have clips of pieces that I wanted to the house, and I even forgot about that. So I just saw in my different files, like, oh shit, look at this. The house that I built is the house that I ambition, and I literally manifested it, right? Without doing the manifestation. Yeah, you have to. It's just it happens, right? Because you are so focused on a goal and objective that sometimes you forgot, and suddenly, you got the objective, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it's really interesting. Actually, a funny thought here. When we were doing plans and things like that for the house, I use SketchUp a lot for, like, to render some things in 3D just to understand how it kind of feel when you're in the spot. And I have two little greyhounds, like tiny greyhounds, and
Hmm.
in my 3D renders, I would put little statues of little greyhounds just to represent dogs, little gold. And it was something that was already like a download a 3D thing within SketchUp,
Hmm.
the modeling software. Well, I kid you not, man. I'm shopping one day and I see these little gold greyhounds, and I end up buying two of them because I'm like, that was in my 3D rendering from like 3 years ago. And now it's like exactly how it was in my 3D rendering is exactly where that little gold statue of my little Italian Greyhound. That's my first Italian Greyhound. His name was Fermi. Shout out to Fermi.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I remember for me.
you remember Fermi, right?
Yeah.
But he's like a little statue there. So now, like, I probably would have still ran into those little greyhounds, shopping out there. But it's kind of very interesting. Like, hey, it's something that was in my plans
Hmm.
unconsciously. It was not something. Oh, I have to have a statue like this. But maybe there is some woo woo to it. I don't really know, but it's kind of
It's
funny that it ended up working that way.
I really think that if we remove maybe the woo woo, it will be planting the seed in the brain to be aware of those type of things, right? So your
Hmm.
brain was already in tune with that, uh, vibration, or you want to call it. It's like this spot, dude. Like we just, it's like, hey, I'm planning to build this. Me too, right? Like we were in the wavelength.
Very true. That is actually the weirdest thing. I mean, you guys know that we just recently started thinking about this, but I was going through a change. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should start a podcast. I'm like thinking, who who would be interested? I said, let me bring it up to go. Not asking him. I just brought it up. Hey, what do you think about podcasts? He's like, oh, I'm about to start one or something. I'm like, oh, really? Well, let's do one. So, and it just kind of worked out that way. Really
Yeah.
interesting, right?
To close, I know that we are getting closer to the end of the episode. I really want to touch base as well that a lot of the money, I think that sometimes might be fear though. It's there is a lot of fear as well of losing it,
Yeah.
or not getting it, or and I think that I can tell you from my point of view, you have to see a very abundant uh, a way. Dude, just think that outside on there's asteroids that they are like full of like materials, right? Like they have like a
Mhm.
whole like planet, right? Like so resources, there are a lot of resources. And I think that this one is also an interesting one, which is sometimes the way that we describe words, it matters. Um, for example, in Spanish, in some regions you say "I'm gonna ganar dinero," which means I'm gonna win money.
Mhm.
In English, you don't say that. You say that when you're doing other type of things. You actually say "I'm gonna make money." Which, if you think about it, it's a very different approach of uh, on winning money, which is almost in a Spanish culture will be like it's a zero sum game, which basically somebody has to lose in order for you to make money. But in my opinion, that's wrong. Why is wrong is because you can actually extrapolate value out of thin air, right? And let me give you an example just to drive this to home. Imagine that you have just a car. that you are literally is like run down, beat up, and all of that. And the price of the car is 5K. The market is willing to pay that, right? And you have the car, it's already there. But what about if you fix it? You put your set equity, you clean it up, right? You paint it, right? Then you start increasing the value, and suddenly that car is a classic, right? Then that
Mhm.
car is like maybe 150K. You didn't have to steal anyone. You didn't have to be malicious of have malas of to just try to to extract that value, right? No, you actually generated value out of thin air just with your set equity and your knowledge and your skill set and your awareness and blah blah, right? So yeah, I think that sometimes that is a misconception.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that mindset, Mando. So, yeah, just for our listeners out here, that's is the message is, hey, be fearless, sin miedo,
Sin miedo. See you next
sin
time.
miedo. Talk to y'all next time, y'all. Bye.
Cheers.